Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our virtual happy hour. I'm your host, Greg Avola, founder of Untappd. It's Thursday, which means we're going to have a great time with our happy hour. Hope that you are out there being safe and having that beverage in front of you to enjoy at this time. Before we start introducing our guest today, I want to talk about our sponsor for this particular happy hour. It's Drizly. Drizly is a alcohol service that can deliver directly to your door, especially in this time of need. It's a great opportunity to go out there and use their service to get beer and wine and spirits delivered directly to you. You can use the promo code Drizly2020 and get $5 off your first order. It's a great service to use. They have an app you can download directly. So go to Drizly.com, use the promo code Drizly2020 to get $5 off your first order, and we thank them for their support of the show. So we have two great guests on the show tonight. First, I want to introduce Em Sauter, which is our main guest, and she's on the screen now. She's an advanced Cicerone and an award-winning cartoonist and the founder of Pints and Panels. So, Em, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We also have a good old friend of mine, Rob Brink, who just joined the screen here. Rob is our product designer at Untappd. I work pretty closely with Rob on all things Untappd, whether it's app-related, web-related, and also many people don't know that Rob does a lot of the can art design for a local brewery where our headquarters is in Wilmington, North Carolina for Wilmington Brewing Company. So we're excited to have both of these people on today, talking a little bit about a different sense of what we normally do on these shows, of talking about interesting things within the beer art community. And I think that's something that we're really excited about sharing today. So before we get into all the questions, the most important part of every virtual happy hour is the beverages that we are drinking. So I guess I'll start with what I'm having today. I'm actually drinking the Other Half Altogether collaboration from a local brewery up near me, which is Urban Lodge, which just opened up a couple of months ago in Manchester, Connecticut. I'm really excited about this. I was actually sending Instagram messages to them. I'll be like, can I have this for the show? Is it going to be ready or not? Because originally my order was supposed to be on a Friday. So I'm happy that they're actually going to have this. And I created the beer on Untappd, which I've never done before. But at the same time,
sorry, my clock.
No. Actually, never actually have created a beer that much on Untappd, and I did. And I thought I'd be the first person to check into it, but I'm already the 14th person. So time flies there. So, Em, what are you drinking on your side there?
So I have another Connecticut brewery. I've got Fox Farm in Salem, Connecticut. I've got their Quiet Life Czech style Pilsner, and it is delicious. One of my favorite beers that they make. So
Em and I are actually neighbors, believe it or not, like really close by. We didn't know that until we started talking and stuff like that. So pretty cool to support CT Beer. Rob, all the way down in North Carolina, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking 8 Minute Song by Wilmington Brewing Company, of course. It's a New England style IPA, double dry hop with all cashmere hops in it.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. Well, everyone crack open your beer. If you're watching it right now, we'll crack open and if I can, there we go, and crack it up and pour it into your glass, drink right out there, and we'll do a big cheers for everybody that's checking in. Make sure if you're checking in on Untappd to tag your location at Untappd at home and raise your glass and cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and happy virtual happy hour to you guys.
Cheers.
That's delicious. So if you're out there on Untappd, make sure you check into the Untappd at home venue. It's a great way to kind of keep safe out there. Show others where you are. You can also see a list of everyone else that are drinking. We post all the beers that we're going to have on the virtual happy hour on that, so you can see what we're drinking on Thursday nights. So it's a great way to do that. Plus, we have a badge on that venue as well, so you can level up your Untappd at home badge, which was designed by Rob and our other designer Ian as well. So. Also, too, if you have any questions for Em or Rob, and I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves in a bit so you can give them more information about them, but put it in the comments and our team will be able to kind of scour that and give us information about, all those questions. Em, a quick question for you, just to start, just give a brief overview of your background and what you're doing and a lot about Pints and Panels and where people can find you.
So Pints and Panels is a website, pintsandpanels.com. I'm also on social media. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Pints and Panels. It turns 10 actually in 2 weeks. May 19th. It was my first comic I did about beer for the site in 2010. I have a MFA in cartooning from the Center for Cartoon Studies in White River Junction, Vermont. It is a real place. People don't believe it, but it's in an old post office in White River Junction. I graduated with an MFA in 2011, and then I've worked in the beer industry since then. Most recently, I I'm drinking their beer. I work part-time at Fox Farm, but I also have my website where I do art, I do commissions, I do a lot of freelance writing and drawing. I'm studying for the Master Cicerone exam. My site focuses on visual beer education. So my site has, because of the pandemic, new content every day. So if you're learning for certified Cicerone or just want to know more about beer, I do a lot of different types of very simple, easy to understand comics about beer.
Yeah, and I've had a chance to look at them too, preparing for the show, and I love the look and feel of it. I feel those are what we want to have on our labels, and that's a good segue to you, Rob. You give people a little background on where you where you came from, what you're doing right now at Untappd, and a little bit about your design kind of labels in the area there.
Yeah, so I'm originally from the Chicagoland area, moved down to Wilmington about 6 years ago. Kind of got introduced to craft beer from a coworker who was homebrewing. Started using the app, was a big fan of it, and saw a job posting for a product design position about a year and a half ago now. Applied, got it, and here I am today. On the side, I work for one of our local breweries here in Wilmington called Wilmington Brewing Company. I do all their can artwork, some of their t-shirt designs, stuff like that. So I'm very involved in the local beer industry here.
Awesome. Well, excited to have you guys both on the show here. I actually hired Rob, so that's my my claim to fame right now is that I made a right decision of bringing him on board. So why don't we start with a question for both of you guys, and maybe Rob, you start first with this. But to kick things off, like you both have a combined passion for design and a passion for the world of beer together. What led you to kind of choose that route in terms of using your passion design skills for the beer industry? Was it something that you kind of got caught up in the love of beer and it became part of your career, or where's the driving force there? Yeah,
so for me, I was just hanging out at Wilmington Brewing Company a lot and talking with the owners, and they were getting ready to do their first canning line, and they just were like, hey, can you do some labels for us? So we did a run of 4 of their kind of like flagship beers, and then just kind of spiraled from there. So yeah.
What about you, Em?
Well, I've been drawing my whole life. My first the first drawing I ever did was I was 4 at it's called Peter at the Bus Stop. Was the first human I ever draw. I have a distinct memory like it was yesterday. It was bizarre. It was terrible. I was 4 though, so it's okay.
It was good because you were 4. That's the whole point was.
It's good for a 4-year-old. And so I've been drawing and doodling my whole life. And then when I went to the Center for Cartoon Studies, it's in Vermont. And what is Vermont known for? But really good beer. Phenomenal. I was there the day that Sean Hill got his first pallet of bottles at Hill Farmstead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He was like, check out my bottles. And he like leaned against them. And he's like, one day we're going to bottle. I don't know. I was like, what? Like he was just brewing in his garage and selling it to a couple local bars that I really liked. And we would go to Von Trapp. We would go to The Alchemist. I mean, it was what a time in 2010, right when the craft movement was like really starting to pick up. Living in Vermont was amazing. And so I wanted to create comics based on what I was drinking, what I enjoyed. And so Pints and Panels was born in 2010, just between my 2 years at grad school with really something to do over the summer. And I really, really just fell in love with drawing about beer. And then leaning towards education more when I became an advanced Cicerone and working towards the master. So, yeah.
Very cool. It's funny to believe that Untappd and also Pints and Panels were founded in the same year. So we actually launched back in October 22nd of 2010. So this year will be our 10th anniversary. So that's really, really cool. You talked a little bit about Pints and Panel being educational, and that was your kind of goal. Going into it, was that something that you always thought it would be more of an educational path for this, or more of a cartoon kind of comedy side? Because I can tell you, when we first started Untappd, we had no idea that it really would come to where it is today. So I wonder how you had the same kind of perception on your side.
So when I started Pints and Panels, I actually reviewed beer. So I would have like a starred system. And that's actually how Pints and Panels was for about 8 years or so. Until very recently, when I was like, well, I want to figure out a way where I can learn visual, because I learn visually. And so how can I learn visually? But also I started posting on Twitter, like this is how a style is broken down. I did German Pilsner, this is noble hops, Pilsner malt, lager yeast, this is how it's made. And people really enjoyed it. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. I want to do this for every beer style. I want to do it for every hop. I want to do it. I want to learn. And like, I'm ravenous for learning. I love it. So how can I use my drawing, skill? I'm not the greatest drawer. I
think you're an amazing drawer. That's really good.
I mean, thank you. But it's definitely a simple style. And so creating simple comics for and breaking down things into simple parts is something I've really enjoyed doing. And I started doing that last year. And so that's what the focus went for Pints and Panels. So now it's all about visual beer education.
Awesome. Well, we're going to put some of your photos on the screen here. Oh. This is from one of your Twitter posts that you've kind of gone through here. And I love the way that, as we look through some of your lists here, you have a very unique style of drawing and including into the beer world. I mean, some of these like can art are kind of more simple version of art design here. But, for me, it's just like a plain and simple kind of look at stuff. You can tell I'm not a designer or an artist person. I'm just struggling to find the words to describe how I feel about these things, and I'm falling flat. But what was your inspiration to kind of design beer in this kind of way? Because usually when you see about can art, it's all about kind of shapes and modernness, but yours is more of a cartoon feel, which hasn't really been done a lot recently when it comes to these type of things.
Yeah, so all of these are from I'm doing commissions and raising money for drug relief. Mm-hmm. And so you pay $40 and $10 from every drawing, and I'll draw anything. Like this was someone wanted a growler of Cambridge Brewing Company, and I used to live in Boston. We would walk to Cambridge Brewing Company. This was our exercise. We would walk to Cambridge Brewing Company, get a couple beers, fill our growler, and then walk home. And so we were like, oh, we worked out today. And then we would drink the growler. So I've been drawing anything you want, and then I'll send you the high-res JPEG of that within a week, and then $10 of that goes to Direct Relief just for their COVID efforts. I've raised over $200 now. Wow. It's been really, the idea came for me from JP. She works for Cicerone, and she was like, I want to draw, will you draw comics for my friends, and I'll send them to them as like a gift. And I was like, I love that idea. That's phenomenal. And I want to create a way where I can give back too. I'll give part of the money to charity. And she was like, sold. So the first one I ever did was Lion Stout for her coworker, my friend Shayna. And that's how it so I've been drawing tons of different beers, and it's basically my drawing aesthetic and then everyone else's, their design aesthetic kind of meets together. And it's a really wonderful, I've been enjoying everything I've gotten to draw, from beers I've never had before to beers that I've always Nancy from drawing an Allagash label. My God.
That'd be pretty cool.
The most requested is Maine Brewing Company, Maine Beer Co. rather. And their labels are so simple. I mean, it's just, there's even no art on it. It's just almost a font treatment. So getting their work, getting to draw their stuff. And I'm a huge fan of what they do. So, and their beer.
Here's the example of one of the ones we're talking about with the Maine Beer Company. You can see that, maybe people may be looking at this and saying, hey, that's a minimalist drawing of it. No, that's exactly what it looks like. Yeah. If you ever had anything from Maine Beer Company, literally that even the smiley face is there on the Zo beers. I mean, it's a pretty cool perception there. It's pretty awesome to see. Speaking about your comic series, we have a few of them here, obviously, that you've had on your website for a while. How did you get started with this? And I know that it was obviously from we just talked about with the Direct for the COVID. How does this really help from a person that wants to learn more about beer? What are you aiming to kind of goal here when they see your kind of comics there?
So I'm going super simple. And it's also, some of it's for me. So I'm taking the Master Cicerone for a third and final time, because I'm not going to take it more than 3 times. And that's fine. It's a lot of work. So I was like, how can I illustrate and put it in my head and help myself, but also teach people who aren't taking the Master Cicerone, who are the Master Cicerone syllabus is very similar to the other ones as well. So how can I, help myself, but also help other people? And I asked Cicerone, I was like, can I illustrate your syllabus? And they were like, sure, go problem. Put a note that says this isn't, this isn't from us. This is from you. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And they've been retweeting my work. They're what a wonderful organization. Everyone who works there is phenomenal. It's been a lot of fun to study. I'm, again, a huge nerd, if you can't tell.
We're all nerds in our own way, I guess you could say so.
So I've been just working on this is more helping myself, but at the same time, trying to help people who are like, if you're taking the certified, I mean, this is stuff that'll be on the certified or the advanced exam. Right. So I've put it all on my website for free. I have an educational archive that anyone can access. I sell art prints if you're interested in getting a hard copy, and I do commissions as well. And some freelance. I have a monthly comic in Pellicle magazine, which is UK based in the UK, and they let me draw about brewery cats. It's called The Adventures of Nelson and Goldie.
That's the beauty about, I believe, this industry. There's so many different fringes, I guess you could say, that come off of this piece here. That's interesting. Speaking of your own personal favorites, we have a question from Chip Pollock, who asked if what has been your favorite commission drawing you've done recently.
You know what? I actually really liked that Fargo Beer Company one because I got to draw that wood chipper. That was really that was a lot of fun to do. And it also has been bringing me back memories from things I really like. That Cambridge Brewing Company, like going to walk to get that growler. And Will Myers is an amazing brewer. I love the beers that they make. I don't have a favorite.
I put you on the spot, so it's fair to answer that way.
No. I just really like what people have asked for. I mean, they've asked for all sorts of beer, like that DuPont, classic stuff, to their local, like Fargo, like that's my local brewery. I love their beer. Can you draw that? And I was like, absolutely, absolutely. I just did Hill Farmstead 10 Years of Arthur. Oh yeah. That was for Oz Cruz, and then he had me send a hard copy of it to Sean Hill, and and it was cool to see the progression of, he goes, can you draw the labels in a progression and I'll pay you for it? I was like, absolutely. So I got to draw the original Hill Farmstead Arthur.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then seeing how it evolved. And the thing is, it's so interesting with label design. I'm sure Rob knows about this as well, is like rebranding and the way that certain tweaks kind of change and the evolution of the brand. It's that Hill Farmstead's logos are so simple, but
yes,
watching the evolution of Arthur over the 10 years, because they're 10 years old as well. Yeah. It was really fun. That was really fun to draw. And it came out I was really, really proud of how that came out.
That's really cool. I mean, it's a perfect segue, Rob. I mean, obviously, when you're designing, labels for Wilmington Brewing Company, where do you kind of draw on inspiration to kind of come up with these things? Because we were just talking about this today when we were at work. I didn't know Tropical Lightning, which is one of the beers, their famous beers down there, has its own label now. Where do you kind of draw some of your inspiration for doing these labels?
Yeah, so John and Michelle, the owners, we kind of get together, and they usually have some of the craziest names for their beers. It's really fun, some of the names that they come up with, but we just kind of have a little brainstorm session together with the team and everything. And we illustrate it and just a bunch of different iterations. And it's just going back and forth with them. Sometimes they'll come to me with like, hey, here's the idea, here's the name, let's add this onto the can. So it's really simple. And sometimes they'll just be like, here's the name, it's an IPA, go with it. So it's a little mix of both. So we kind of have like a template designed for all the cans, and actually have one of the cans right here. So nice. all the cans are pretty similar. And then right down here at the bottom is what's unique about each one. So I get this little strip here. It's not much to work with, but sometimes it's very challenging. But that's kind of what we get. So like this one, 8-minute song. It's kind of got some radio waves down the bottom. I wish I had some of their better ones and stuff like that, but
well, it works for the name of your beer, so I guess it's kind of it fits in with that paradigm there. A question we have from Rick Willis, who asked in our chat, a question for both you guys actually is, we talked about you ever get inspiration from a label or a beer flavor? So for example, when you go out and try a beer, for example, and this tastes like something, did that inspire you to kind of create a label around that? I guess we'll start with you, Em, on that.
Yeah, I've when I used to review beer, I would have a notebook with me, and I would have my husband always jokes that when I have a beer that's really good, I make this like face. Like,
You're not alone with that.
You like
People
that?
do that.
Yeah. Like, and I'll like hit the table. Like I do this kind of like, I get real. And so when I would review beer in cartoon form, I would have a notebook, and the minute I would like experience that kind of like, oh wow, I would have to write it all down. And and you'd get inspired. Like, I want to draw this now. I want to experience like this now or again. The first beer, when I would give star reviews, and I remember the first beer I ever gave star reviews, the 4-star review to was I was at the Three Penny Tap Room in Montpelier, Vermont, and I had Saison du Buff, which is that collaboration. Was it Victory, Dogfish Head, and
Somebody will know in the comments, so I don't want to say I just remember Dogfish Head, and I think it was Victory's version, or Dogfish Head's version, and it was just like rosemary and like phenols, and it was just like holy crap, this is so good. So I had to review it like I think the next day. So that's, I can be inspired by lots of different things. I mean, there's so many like beer flavors and so many things to learn about that. Yeah. I mean, inspiration is everywhere. What about you, Rob, on your side? I mean, I love listening to all this because I am not artistic. Rob knows this. Like, I can develop some pretty cool things, but I am not in anywhere, shape, or form. So where are you going to draw your expert? Does it come from the beer drinking or an experience that you may have with that beer?
It actually doesn't come from drinking the beer. I actually don't I usually design the label before the beer gets actually released. So I don't get to try it first. A lot of my inspiration comes from mainly other beer labels. Anytime I go to a bottle shop, like I'm usually looking at the label design. There's a few that I really love. Another local one here in town, Flying Machine. They started a new series, and they have some really cool artwork that they got going on. Burial Beer up in Asheville, North Carolina. I spent about 6 months up there, which that was heaven. That's a great city for beer too. They have some really cool labels, and honestly, their beer names are cool. It's like a story when you're drinking the beer. I can't remember the exact beer, but the name of it is like a whole paragraph. And they have these really cool like skeletons and bears and crosses and stuff on the label. So I get a lot of my inspiration from other labels. I actually am starting this new little project. Last time I was back home, in my attic, or my parents' attic, actually, my dad has like 3 boxes of vintage beer cans from the 50s all the way to like the early 80s that I'm going to be stealing from him and photographing and kind of like drawing some inspiration from there.
Cool. I think that this is a good question. We got in from Joshua Friedman. He asked for Em, is Mike Judge an influencer on your work?
So my work is based off of, I was really obsessed with the Archie comics. So when I was like 10 or 11, I was at summer camp, and my mom mailed me a bunch of Archie comics from the local news store. And I was like, man, Archie, and like, why does Betty and Veronica like Archie? He's kind of like, I don't know. That's a whole other talk for a whole other day. But anyway, so it was my attempt at drawing Betty and Veronica. And that's how like my drawing experience. And then, obviously I watched King of the Hill a lot when I was in high school, and Beavis and Butthead. And then like, there's a lot of people say that when I used to draw like larger eyes. So there was a lot of like manga influence, and people would ask me about that. But no, the real influence is me when I'm 11 trying to draw Betty and Veronica, and not nailing it. And then that's how my style evolved.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely see some similarities there for sure. But I think that that's the cool thing about art, is that you can take a style of drawing and kind of adapt it to your own way. And, we've had a lot of designers on Untappd, and, I've gotten used to their design patterns. And I think at this point I can pick based on what I'm seeing who designed it, even though I may not any longer been at the company or whatnot. I know Rob designed pretty much Pat at this point. You can definitely tell what he's going to like and what he doesn't. So I love to riff off of Rob and like show him stuff that he's like, I know Rob's going to have a heart attack when he sees this and stuff like that. So it's pretty funny to work on that. Another question we have from Earl Parker for Rob: is there any can design or genre that you of the can art you want to expand to? And I guess Em, you can also answer that question too. But we'll start with Rob. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, I want to get into some bottles. Actually, I've only done cans so far, and I've been itching and trying to get Wilmington to do a bottle. They did one bottle a long time ago, but so yeah, bottle design is one, and more like illustrative labels. Right now, my style is very minimal, flat shapes, flat illustrations, stuff like that. I want to get more into some detailed illustrations, and like I'm not the best drawer, so grow there as well. And
I think you're pretty good, Rob.
Thank you. But so yeah, bottle and more like illustrative label art.
What about you, Em?
I mean, I'm not a label artist, so most of my stuff's online. I've done some label like freelance stuff for local breweries. I did a wheat wine for Relic Brewing 7 or 8 years ago, and that was delicious. I really love Mark's beers. If you come to Connecticut, Relic's amazing. So I mean, that would be really. People always ask me like, "Oh, you should do label art." And like, I like that label art, when label art tells a story and it's very cohesive. I'm super into consistency when it comes to label design. So I would be like, yeah, okay, then give me your entire like portfolio. If you look at places like Suarez Family or like Wayfinder in Portland, Oregon's aesthetic is really nice. It's very similar to Burial's. I really like Blackberry Farm in Tennessee. I think they're in Tennessee, right? Yeah, their labels are just like very. I love cleanliness when it comes to labels, and so that would be. I mean, that's the best. Like I think of like Mickler, and I think of like the illustrator that created that world for Mickler. Is just it's iconic, and that's what art is. It's just that's the best part about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I working with Rob, consistency is a big part of what he likes as well. So I as a drinker, you kind of want to, drink a can from a lot of breweries and have it tell a story. It's always weird to me when I see a can completely designed differently than a one that has been done previously. You're always thinking it's a different brewery. I'm a big fan of Other Half's kind of design aesthetics and how they've done all of their beers kind of very consistently. And also Treehouse, which is very close to where I'm located, is another example of those can artwork that just kind of blow you away. You know exactly what it is when you find it. So it's very cool. Switching gears a little bit, one of the questions we have from Keith is about what's the toughest part of the Master Cicerone for which to prepare to?
A lot. I mean, you don't know. I mean, the tasting portion is very tough. They put 9 beers in front of you and they go, "What style is this?" And you have 15 minutes. Oh, wow. And it's not just, normal style. It's, they had foreign extra stout was on there, American wheat beer, so like Widmer. So not like a Hefeweizen where you have German character. It's just a clean wheat beer that was on there this year. There are off flavors that I can't personally taste. That were all found its way into one panel. And it was awful. So there are days, they equate it to running a marathon where you have to train constantly. And so, which means trying a lot of bad beer, which is the solution for it is to go to bad breweries, which people are like, wow, that's a terrible thing to say. But like, if you go to breweries that aren't great, you can taste off flavors on the cheap and you can go, okay, sit down with a pint and go, all right, well, this is awful. What did they do wrong? And you can kind of walk your way through, not in like I'm not going to like name names of where I go or whatnot, but like there are places where you go and you're like, okay, well, if they had done this, then this would have been better if this. And it's incredibly helpful. I when people ask about the certified Cicerone exam, I'm like, go to a bad brewery.
How did the training work? I mean, obviously we all laugh about it. Oh, it's awesome. I can drink all the beer I want. But like, how does this work? We've seen a lot of wine tasters basically spool it around, sniff it, kind of take a little sip and then kind of come back down. Like what is the path of how you kind of identify these flavors? And does it make drinking less interesting after you know everything that's so bad about it? What does that look like?
No, because when you get a beer that's so good and so perfect,
You know it's good.
it makes it even better. What I do is I have a great local liquor store near my house called Harvest. I know the guy that's the buyer there, Ian. He's a phenomenal guy. He'll make blind 6-packs for me. So I don't know what I'm paying for, individually wrap everything in bags, seal the bag shut, put it in the refrigerator. And then every day I'll pour myself a beer and I like sit through it and I'll go, okay, what is this? And more times than not, I'm wrong. Which is not great. And so you kind of like, all right, well, why does it taste like this? Sometimes there's age as a factor. Harvest treats their beer really great. It's all in refrigerators. It's all in coolers. So I'm very lucky that they're near my house. It's a lot of reading for studying. It's a lot of essay prep. The exam is 40 to 50% of it is essays. For the grade, and you need an 85 to pass. So, and they're looking for a certain thing. There's a rubric, there's an algorithm. So if you write an essay, you can get a 75 and you're like, oh, I thought I nailed it. And they're like, well, no, you missed this. They'll send you feedback after you take the exam. So you're like, you really need to work on this. You need to, if you had done this, then this would have been better. But you don't, the syllabus is 32 pages long and you don't know what's going to be on it. And there's math for draft, draft math and gas blends. And so they give you a calculator and it's,
I don't think many people out there realize how deep the Cicerone, I think it gets thrown around pretty loosely sometimes for, there are different levels of the Cicerone. You can be a server and a certified server in Cicerone, but then obviously being at that advanced level, that is something completely different. It's like taking the SATs, but not about the SATs and all that fun stuff. So it's a very deep knowledge there. So I'm always curious talking to someone who's gone through that because I have great admiration for that because it's a very difficult thing to go through. So you should pride yourself on that. Yeah,
it's I've taken it twice. I've done okay both times. I've gotten close to the part where I'm within striking distance. They're always very supportive. Everyone at Cicerone is like, you can do it. You can do this. And so I've got one more year. I don't know if the exam will happen this year because of current situations, and they don't know either, but I'm drawing a lot to work on the Visual Master Cicerone syllabus, and that's been a lot of fun to do. I mean, I just yesterday I drew a picnic pump, the thing you put on a keg. Yeah, and that was, this is how a picnic pump works.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll do one more question. This is for Rob from Ian, not Arian, I don't think. So he had asked about, do you find it more challenging to design a plastic sleeve label over a standard pull and stick labels? Do you have a preference when looking at your design patterns?
So right now we're just got stick labels. A standard little stick label that just wraps across. I have not done any others yet, so can't really answer that question right
You let them down, Rob. You let them down. I think there's not a lot of breweries out there that I've seen that have used more of that sleeve label now because everything's really sticking onto the can. But I can imagine that they get wet, they fall off. A lot of things happen with that situation. So I think the real answer is you should be using a stick label and not a pull label. So
I like the whole. What is it, like the plastic wrap, saran wrap kind of ones where it wraps the whole can? I would love to be able to do one of those, kind of get a little bit more room to design with, because sometimes it's hard just doing the sleeve. Like you want to get it to wrap all the way around and stuff like that.
Cool. Well, we'll ask one more question from me to you guys before we kind of go to our last segment here. But I'll start with you, Em. In what ways do you see design playing a bigger role in shaping the beer industry? Obviously, there's a lot of focus on design. More importantly, a lot of breweries over the last couple of years. What do you see for the future in that kind of area?
Well, I think design is the way you stand out. I mean, you can go to the store and you're just blown away by the amount of beers on the shelves. And a lot of consumers are looking for, cohesion. Like, oh, I know this brand, and they made this brand, and they all look the same. Or fun. There's a lot of fun labels out there. But I think that design is incredibly important to keep brand loyalty. I think it's really, really important to keep consumers, guessing, but also interested. New drinkers, people who are like into the craft scene, maybe are new, or someone buying a gift for someone. I've definitely bought. I used to work at a beer store in Oregon, and I would always sell people on Logston. Which is I met the owner. I met the guy that drew it. The labels are this like beautiful. It says older Icelandic man draws them, and they have a beautiful wax top, and they have a picture of Mount Hood, or it looks like Mount Hood, and it's so beautiful. And you bring that, and the beer is not expensive, and you bring that to someone, and they're like, "I brought you this as a gift," and it looks so nice. And so I'd always be like, "Oh, you're buying a gift. You should buy this." And they were like, "Well, it's only $8." And I'm like, they won't know. It looks very fancy. And that's the thing, that design can, denote almost luxury, or it can, change the way that people think about a certain brand. And it's incredibly important, especially now with the amount of craft breweries that are out there.
Yeah, same question for you, Rob. I'm sure you share the same sentiment there, but what do you say?
Yeah, I would have to echo what Em said. It's all about making your brand stand out with such a wide range of craft beers these days. How are you going to use design to make your brand stand out on the shelves? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I know when I'm at a bottle shop, I'm walking down the aisle, and I see something pop to my eye. Like, what is that brewery there? If I don't recognize it, I'm going to look into it. So it definitely has a big part there. But well, thank you guys so much for being part of the show here. Just want to give a quick update for everybody else that's watching on some of our upcoming episodes. This Saturday, we're going to have our next Sessionable Saturday guest, the one and only Greg Kutch from Stone, who's going to be on here, the co-founder there. He's a wild and crazy man, and we're excited for him to come on the show and talk all things Stone. The next virtual happy hour a week from tonight will be Kevin Martin and Mike Mathis from Cascade Brewing Company. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about there. And if you're big into sours in Oregon, that's the place to be. Rob knows this. I'm not a huge sour fan, so
I am.
Rob is. I am not, and I'm sure I'm going to get laughed at pretty successfully on that show. So make sure you check us out there. If you have any questions or feedback about the show, we're definitely all about getting those feedback. Make sure you email media@Untappd, and we'll be happy to kind of answer your questions or any feedback about the show. So, Em, I'll give you one last plug for you, where people can find you on Twitter or Facebook or what have you, and where can they find you for more information.
So it's www.pintsandpanels.com is my website. New content is updated every day, and I have a beautiful archive of stuff you can look at if you're interested in, I just want to learn about beer styles. I want to learn about hops. I've got that. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pints and Panels. And
awesome.
Yeah.
And Rob, where can people find you? They can open up the Untappd app. They can see half the badges. The Cinco de Mayo badge we just did was designed by you. So where can people find you on Twitter and other areas to see your work?
Yeah, so find me on Untappd, Rob Brink, and then Twitter, Instagram, Rob Brink as well. So
he's got some great photos there to watch out for. He inspired me
to
take some of my
Instagram is more beer photos. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show. One last word for our sponsor, and Drizly is the sponsor there. They are providing a $5 off your first order. All you have to do is go to Drizly and download the app and use the code Drizly2020 to get $5 off your order. If you're not sure what Drizly is, it's a wine and beer delivery service. You can use it in any area you like, and especially in this COVID-19 situation, it's great to give your local breweries and local bottle shops an opportunity to get your business and use Drizly. And we thank them for support. So thanks everybody out there for watching. Really appreciate it. Stay safe and stay home, and make sure you check us out on Untappd. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.